Hello, everyone. We are going to work on chapter 3 of the book of Esther. Chapter 1, if you're following my little Bible study, is the picture of the throne chair. Chapter 2 is the picture of the pillows. And chapter 3 here is the picture of a rope. As a review, we know that King Ahasuerus dethroned Queen Vashti. He wanted to find a new queen. The new queen was selected, and that was Esther, also known as Hadassah. And now today we're going to meet Haman. Haman will soon be known as the hangman. You know, I have riddles for everything. Vashti would not be nasty. Haman will be known as the hangman, and King Ahasuerus has a reason for the things that he does, we think. So in Esther chapter 3, after these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman. Now Haman was the next dude up underneath the king, and he promoted him, and Haman actually got a big head because he thought he was a top dog now that the king has promoted him. I know we've all met people like this, but I want you to try to describe Haman in your mind, just as we described Vashti earlier. We've got to think about how tall Haman might be, how he smells, what color are his eyes, is he honest, does he have a mustache, does he wear jewelry, like rings all over his fingers and big necklaces, does he walk around alone or with a posse, just that kind of thing. Does he smoke, and so forth? Are his teeth nice and straight and white, or is he kind of dingy? Who knows? But of all the king's servants who were within the king's gate, every time Haman walked by, in verse 2, the people bowed to him and they paid homage to Haman because the king had commanded them concerning Haman. But there was one guy who would not bow to Haman, and that was Mordecai. Mordecai was Queen Esther's cousin. Here is a proof of God in this book, because if you believe in the Lord, you don't bow to any man or to any idol. And Mordecai just would not bow to Haman, and the only reason that he possibly would not bow to Haman was because he believes in the Lord, and he only bows to the Lord Jesus. So he would not pay homage to Haman. Verse 4, now it happened when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, that they told it to Haman to see whether Mordecai's words would stand. For Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. I'm sorry, I missed a verse. I'm sorry. Verse 3. The king's servants who were within the king's gate said to Mordecai, why do you transgress the king's command? Like, why do you not bow to Haman? And they spoke to him daily. This is the verse I got out of context. And he would not listen to them. Mordecai wouldn't listen. And they told it to Haman to see whether Mordecai's words would stand, for Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. So he let them know now that he was a Jew and he wasn't bowing to a man. Now when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow to him, Haman was filled with wrath. Now in chapter 1, or I guess it was chapter 2, King Ahasuerus was filled with wrath because of what Vashti had done. And it talked about his wrath had subsided, then he missed her. But here, Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow to him, and he's filled with wrath. So let's see what Haman's thinking. He was disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. He wanted to get a hold of Mordecai. For they had told him, the people of Mordecai. Instead, Haman sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout the whole kingdom of King Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. So because Mordecai wouldn't bow to Haman, Haman decides he's going to kill all the Jews. Now, there were Jews all over this area. They were just there. They never caused any trouble. They were there because of war relocation. And that's a whole nother study in itself. But just trust me, there were a lot of Jews there. And Mordecai was a Jew, and Esther was a Jew. So Haman gets the great idea, well, I'm just going to kill all the Jews, because if Mordecai won't bow to me, that'll just take care of him, and he'll be killed. It would have been a whole lot easier if Haman would have just ignored Mordecai. But why do you think he would not ignore Mordecai? He thought he was way too important to let anyone like Mordecai embarrass him. He wanted to make sure Mordecai knew who he was and knew that he was the boss. And he wasn't going to have it. So he comes up with this great idea. I want to make sure I don't miss a verse sometimes when I'm looking at my work. Okay. Verse 7. In the first month, which was the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur. Now what that means is Persian. Pur means Persian. And it's lot. It's kind of like casting dice, throwing dice. And they did that to determine what day, what month, and so forth that they would kill the Jews. So they just threw the dice. So now at this point, King Ahasuerus had been in the office for 12 years. But I want to skip over just a minute to Proverbs 16:33. What does it say about casting lots? Proverbs 16:33 says, the lot is cast into the lap. That means like the dice. It's cast into the lap, but every decision is from the Lord. So no matter what, every decision is from the Lord. So in verse 8, Haman says to the king, there are certain people scattered and dispersed among the people of all provinces in your kingdom. He says there are certain people here. Like he's making it a big deal, a big secret. Certain people in your kingdom. And their laws are different from all the other people. And they do not keep the king's law. Therefore it is not fitting for the king to let them remain here. Now these Jews had been there for a long time. They had never caused any trouble. And now Haman refers to them as certain people. He's being very, very hateful about this whole thing, that Mordecai would not bow to him. So he says, if it pleases the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed. And of course, again, a decree is a letter that the king puts his signet on and it cannot be revoked. So he wants the king to come up with a letter that they be destroyed. And he says, and I'll pay. And at this time, the king had lost a lot of money through war, and the money sounded good to him. He said, I'll pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work to bring it to the king's treasures. Now, this amount of money was a huge amount of money. I mean, millions of dollars. So, the king took his signet ring from his own hand, and he gave it to Haman. He just gave it to him. And he was an enemy of the Jews. Verse 10 tells us that. So King Ahasuerus didn't investigate. He didn't think about it. He just said, this guy's my right-hand man. He's second in command. I trust him. Here's my signet ring. Write the decree. It's fine with me. He has no idea his queen is a Jew. And the king said to Haman, the money and the people are given to you to do with them as it seems good to you. He just turned it all over. So the scribe sent out, and we see in verse 12, the scribe sends out this decree, and they send it to all the people, and it says they sent it in their own language, in the name of King Ahasuerus, and they sealed it with the king's signet ring. So the decree goes out, and a decree cannot be revoked. So it's going out to everyone in their own language. And the letters were sent by couriers into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and annihilate the Jews, both young and old, the little children, the women, in one day. They want to do everybody has to be killed in one day. And you have to think about the horses flying out there and the dust flying, and they're sending these decrees out to everyone, to all these Jews. And a copy of the document was to be issued in every province, being published for all the people, that they are going to be ready for that day when they're going to die. So the couriers went out, hastened by the king's command, and the decree was proclaimed in Shushan, the citadel. And so they get all these letters sent out, the horses are running, the couriers are running, and the king and Haman sit down to drink. They just decide to drink again. And it says in verse 15, the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was perplexed. Those are the Jews. They had been in the city of Shushan. They haven't caused anyone any trouble, and yet they're going to be killed. Well, they're perplexed. The king didn't go to help with the delivery of the news. Haman didn't go. They just drank. That's what they decided to do. And the king has no idea that Esther is a Jew. We really don't know, but he will soon find out for sure. He doesn't really know, but he'll find out for sure. And I want to ask you, how do you think King Ahasuerus is going to react when he finds out his queen is a Jew? How do you feel about King Ahasuerus? I don't like him very much. It seems he's very easily influenced by Haman and by alcohol, and he can't make his own decisions. And the Jews were perplexed in this Shushan, the citadel. Are you perplexed? Because I am. We're going to go on to chapter 4 in our next Bible study. But I have a few questions to ask. I think I wrote down 13. And I just want you to ask yourself, because I want you to learn from this lesson. Who got a promotion? Whom would Mordecai not bow to? Does the book of Esther mention God? Where do we see the first respect for the Lord in the book of Esther? How did Haman take rejection from Mordecai? What did Haman want to do to Mordecai? Who were the certain people that Haman told the king about? What is a decree? Can a decree be revoked? What is a signet ring? What did Haman decide to do to the Jews? Did Haman know that Queen Esther was a Jew? Who seemed to drink all the time? I hope I didn't ask those questions too quickly, but I'll answer them for you in our next Bible study. Stay tuned.